Hi, my name is Diana and I'm 30 years old. Never let your enemies know your next move. That's what my mother had taught me before she passed. She was an amazing lady who didn't take any shit from people. She had raised me as a single mum before cancer took her away from me. My mum was pretty concerned about me before she died. You see, I was at the time dating Richie, who later became my husband. Let me just say that my mum and Richie never had a good relationship. Richie was openly critical of my mum and didn't like her independent personality. He also complained to me that she was too careful and planned too much in life. At the time, I could never guess why he had such a dislike for my mum. I would later learn why. Richie always said,
"You know, for a rich woman, your mother is pretty frugal. I think she should be helping us more. You are her only child. It wouldn't hurt to send us some money."
I don't need my mum's money, Richie. We're doing fine as it is. Besides, her cancer treatment is expensive, so she needs all the money she has.
Why is she even wasting money on the treatments? She's going to die anyway. She's just wasting your inheritance. A good mother would preserve the money for her daughter.
How can you say that, Richie? Even if the prognosis is bad, I want my mum to have a chance. I don't want her money. I would rather have my mother live for the rest of her life. Richie was a good boyfriend, but never supported me through grief. He didn't like the fact that I was paying a lot of attention to my mum. Also, he repeatedly kept bringing up my inheritance and how my mum is spending it away. It was an awful situation for me. I was worried about my mum and thinking about the inevitable as well. Richie and his mother-in-law, Jill, were of no help. My mum did have sneaking suspicions about Richie and Jill. One day when we were alone, she said, "Diana, are you sure you see a future with Richie? Does he actually treat you right?" "He's a good boyfriend, Mum. Besides, I'm not a great catch. I'm neither beautiful nor talented. Richie loves me anyway."
"Sweetheart, you're an amazing woman and anyone will be lucky to have you. Don't listen to the nonsense Richie tells you. You can do better than him, actually. I don't like him at all."
"But Mum, he really does like me. He just has some weird ethics which he's working to change."
"You just see good in everyone around you. I wish you were a little easy on yourself too. Richie is taking advantage of you. I'm very worried he will mistreat you when I am gone."
"Mum, don't talk about being gone. I don't like it."
"Then promise me, Diana, you will make him sign a prenup if you decide to marry him. I want to know my daughter will be financially secure and won't be screwed over by her husband."
"Okay, Mum. If it makes you feel better, I'll definitely have a prenup."
"Make sure to consult our family lawyer. You need to have a secure prenup and he is the best for this job."
"Don't worry, Mum. I'll do what's best for me. I won't let anyone take advantage of me like that."
"I feel a lot better now knowing you will protect yourself."
It was just a week later that my mother passed away. I was absolutely devastated. I didn't have anyone else. For the longest time it was just me and her. Richie, as usual, was extremely unsupportive. He said,
Now, there is no reason to be so lost. We already knew this was coming. The doctor said it won't be long."
"Richie, I just lost my only parent. No matter what, it's too painful for me to comprehend this. My mum will not come back."
"Well, your mum will not come back anyway. You should concentrate on me and my mum. We're still here for you. We'll become your family if you give us the chance." "Yes, I already see you as my daughter-in-law. You can depend on us now. We will take care of you."
I was grateful to still have some people in my life. I knew that eventually I will deal with the grief better. However, my mother's words would stay with me for the rest of my life. I knew that no matter what, I would have to protect myself. I just didn't know that my husband would trick me into his evil plans. After my mother's death, Richie kept pestering me about my inheritance. I was still having a hard time coping and didn't even want to think about my inheritance. However, Richie said,
"You are being very irresponsible with your inheritance, Diana. You need to look into it now. We need to know if your mother blew it through the money for her treatment."
"I don't care about the inheritance, Richie. I don't want money."
"Just think about it, Diana. Our life will be so much better with your inheritance. I'm sure your mother wanted you to have a good life."
"Most of the money had been left through a trust, Richie. I can't just spend it as I want. Only my childhood home will be transferred to my name now." Richie looked a little irritated when I told him that. I guess he was looking forward to a better life with the inheritance money. However, my mother insisted on leaving me a monthly allowance only. While Richie was a little disappointed at first, he quickly recovered. It was then that he started to care of me even more. He was finally giving me the emotional support I needed at the time. Richie proposed to me just 2 months after my mother died. I was honestly not in the mood for planning a wedding, but still said yes. I did love him, and he was the only person in my life. I didn't want to lose him too. Jill was also becoming an important person in my life. She was taking care of me like her own daughter. We regularly hung out and considered her a close friend of sorts. So keeping these in mind, I said yes. We were going to have a small wedding because Richie wasn't very well off. I did offer to cover the majority of the expenses so that he doesn't get low on savings. His bills were piling up, and one day he decided to tell me everything in detail. He said,
"Look, Diana, I have a lot of responsibilities on my mind and can't handle everything at the moment. You know, me and Mum live in a small apartment. The space just isn't enough for us."
"I know, Richie. I've been telling you to move to a better place. You have the money right now. There's no need to spend too much on a wedding. You should prioritize your living situation."
"Yeah, but I don't want to get a new place. You have a perfectly fine house that is fully paid for. Why don't Mum and I move in with you? I mean, we are getting married anyway."
"This is very sudden, Richie. You have just sprung it on me. I need some time to think. I would have to rearrange a lot of stuff if all 3 of us live here."
"Come on now. There won't be a problem. We are your family. We will help. It would be better for you to have us under your roof."
It was true that my childhood home was big enough to fit everyone. Also, with the wedding near, we had to figure out our living situation fast. However, I was having trouble with what Richie suggested. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I was skeptical about letting them move in with me. I was much more comfortable renting a place with him, while his mother lives elsewhere. Jill can be pretty controlling, and I didn't want her to disrupt my life. In the end, I agreed to the move. Richie put me under a lot of pressure, and I had to agree to his demand. He also brought along his mother without consulting me. When I asked him about this, he said,
"Diana, you know my mother can't stay alone. She's dependent on me. Do you expect me to leave her homeless?"
"I never said that, Richie. I'm just surprised you didn't even discuss this with me properly."
"I'm family, Diana. What do you need to discuss? I bet you would have let your mum move in if it were you. You need to have some respect for me."
"I do respect you, Jill. I just wanted Richie to discuss the living situation with me instead of just allowing you to move in." Richie and Jill both ignored me. They couldn't understand that what they were doing was highly disrespectful. However, I let it be because I had a lot on my plate. There was no point in kicking her out when she had already moved in. Jill and Richie settled in well at my house, but there were a few things that never stood well with me. It would be one of the reasons why I ended my marriage. A few months before the marriage, I told Richie about getting a prenup. He was pretty shocked and started to get angry. Richie said,
"Why do we need to get a prenup? Don't you trust me at all?"
"It's not about trust, Richie. I'm simply trying to protect myself. You can get a lawyer and give me your own demands. We can talk about this and come up with a solution."
"I'm not signing a prenup, Diana. This is ridiculous. Why would we need one anyway?"
I tried very hard to make Richie understand. I never mentioned that I had promised my mother to get a prenup. After days of trying to convince him, I put my foot down. I told him that I won't marry him without a prenup. That got him scared, and he decided to cave. We consulted our own lawyers and drew up a prenup. We both thought that the prenup was pretty fair. With that out of the way, I was starting to feel a little less anxious. The wedding happened, and it was a great success. However, the aftermath of the wedding was a nightmare. We were married for only 2 years, after which Richie started to change. As soon as he realized that I'm tied down to him, Richie and Jill both began to torment me. First, Jill took it upon herself to redecorate the entire house. One day I just walked in from work and found most of my old stuff gone. Jill even threw away all the sentimental items that were left behind by my parents. When I confronted her, Richie said,
"Relax, it's just some redecorating. Mum deserves to feel at home here." "Yes, I was feeling very out of place with the horrible decor you have. It's simply not my style."
"You literally threw away my things. Things that belonged to my parents."
"She did you a favour anyway. Your parents had very poor taste in decorations. It's a good thing Mum took things into her own hand."
"But no one even asked me anything. Those were my things. Jill should not have touched them." We had a big argument with Jill and Richie piling upon me. They made some weird arguments and gaslit me into thinking that I overreacted. Since I was being verbally attacked by two people, I started to feel guilty. After some time, I was convinced that I did wrong, so with a heavy heart, I asked for forgiveness. Jill refused to talk to me and shut herself in her room. Richie was also sleeping on the couch and wasn't talking to me either. They emotionally abused me for an entire month. I tried very hard to get them to see my side. However, they refused to listen at all. Richie even went as far as turning his friends against me. I was so emotionally drained that I was ready to do anything. That's when Richie finally told me how to make it right. One evening when I returned from the office, Richie called me into the living room. Jill was already sitting there and waiting for me. They said that we needed to talk about the housing issue. Richie said,
"Do you have any idea how disrespected we feel here? It doesn't feel like we are welcome here."
"Look, I am sorry. I may have overreacted last time. You and Jill can make changes to the house as you wish. Just let me know before you move ahead with your plans."
"I'm afraid that won't be enough. It makes me uncomfortable knowing that I am living in your house. Your reaction to my redecoration didn't help at all." "Even I am starting to question this relationship now. We got married, but you are still refusing to consider us family. We just don't trust you anymore."
"I'm sorry. Tell me how I can make it right."
"Well, the only way you can make this right is by putting my name on the house. That way we will be more comfortable living here."
"You want me to sign over the house?"
"Yes, we are married, so what's the problem? You will still be here anyway. I will even put your name on any house I buy in the future." "Yes, my son is the head of the house. This place needs to be in his name. We have already invested a lot in the new furniture. It's only fair you put his name on the deed."
"All right, if that's what you want, so be it." To be honest, I didn't know what to think about their outrageous request. Things were getting very bad between me and Richie. I was actually at the end of my wits. However, I decided that I would put his name on the deed. I had my reasons for doing it. I did want to try and salvage my marriage before doing something drastic. Richie and Jill were extremely happy when I told them. However, the moment the papers were signed, they changed completely. I was regularly berated in my own house and made to do all the chores. Jill treated me like a slave and refused to even pick after herself or Richie. I was working as well as taking care of all the house chores. I was still trying hard to stay in the marriage. I had no one else and didn't want to be alone. However, all my hopes came crashing down when I discovered divorce papers in Richie's bag. I didn't let him know that I found the papers. Richie had already stopped being affectionate and I knew we were over. That's when I realized that they manipulated me into signing away the house. I was pissed. My mum's words kept coming back to me. It was time to show them that they made a big mistake. I didn't have to do much planning to take my revenge. I already had everything set. I was just waiting for Richie to serve me the papers. It finally happened after 2 days. Richie said,
"I want a divorce from you. When I married you, I expected you to have a huge inheritance, but your stupid mother had to spoil it by leaving you monthly allowances. Only your house was useful to me. Now that I have it in my name, it's time for you to leave."
"So you married me because you thought you would snag my riches? You didn't love me at all, did you?"
"Of course not. Who the hell would date an ugly and dumb girl like you? Mum would never allow me to marry you if you weren't rich, isn't that right, Mum?" "Of course, dear. My son deserves so much better than a useless girl like you. He's already suffered long enough with you. His time, he will find a better girl. You can leave. Also, don't think about taking anything. We already replaced your stuff with ours. You have no claim over them."
"I see. So it was all part of your plan. I guess I deserved it since I was naive enough to consider you family. Anyway, I will sign the papers. You have 1 month to move."
"Excuse me, remember you signed over the house to me. Why will we leave?"
"You signed a prenup, remember?"
"Yes, it says the property belongs to whoever is named in the deed. There will be no equal division, so you won't get a share."
"Well, I guess you didn't read the fine print that well. It clearly says that in case of a divorce, all deeds regarding the transfer of property will be nullified, so you will have to sign over the house to me."
"What? That's not true. Don't play tricks on us. We won't leave this house."
I went to my room and brought the prenup papers. I showed them exactly where the clause was written. They never read it because it was sort of a hidden clause. Richie and Jill were stunned. They couldn't speak at all. I simply went to my room and shut them out. I called my lawyer and told them to prepare for a divorce. Then I left the house with my things and went over to a friend. Richie and Jill called and texted me throughout the day. They kept pestering me to come and talk things out. Richie even told me that he was sorry and wanted to rebuild the relationship. I simply told them to talk to my lawyer. There was no way I was going back. Richie and Jill escalated their calls when it became apparent they had lost. I was dead set on getting back my property and kicking them out. I did meet Richie again, but only with our lawyers present. His lawyer made it clear to him that he would get nothing out of the divorce. Instead, I'll be taking his car, since I bought it and put my name on the papers. Richie was left with nothing. He tried to plead with me.
Diana, please reconsider this. I know I made a mistake. It isn't too late to stop the divorce. You need to be more forgiving. I thought you loved me.
I did love you, Richie, but all my love vanished the moment you betrayed me. You don't want me back. You just want access to my trust in the house. I'll never stay with a man like you.
I will make this right. Please give me a chance. We will start over. I will even cut off my mum. She is the one who gave me ideas.
There is no reason to throw your mum under the bus. Both of you are equally responsible for this. I hope you two get your just desserts. With that, I gave my lawyer the signal to go ahead. Richie's lawyers also told him that signing away the papers will be his best option. Since I didn't want to continue the relationship, there is no point in trying anything, so Richie was forced to sign the divorce. My lawyer then promptly told them to empty the house since it now belongs to me. It was a nightmare getting Richie and Jill to move out. They refused to leave the premises even after the eviction period had expired. I threatened to call the police if they didn't leave. They thought I was bluffing, so I called the police. Richie started to threaten me and started destroying my garden. The police came and arrested him for destruction of property. His mother begged me not to press charges, but I did so anyway. Right now, I'm back living at the house. Richie was let go of his job when his boss found out that he was arrested. He's a very old-fashioned guy and didn't want to have a criminal as his employee. Jill did call me to ask for money to bail him out. I laughed in her face and cut the call. Richie's friends also reached out to me to apologise. They finally realised that Richie was a shitty person. As for me, I'm back to my old self. I'm enjoying my single life while my ex and his mother are struggling to make ends meet.